Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks and welcome back to day 3 of Under the Hammer, where I'm releasing videos every single day on either the new or the very rare tanks that are being released. Yesterday the Object 268 version 5 went under the hammer and the vehicle ended up going, at least on the European server, for a minimum free experience spend of about 530,000. Outrageous stuff. I ended up bidding nearly 700,000 free experience, so I didn't overpay by that much, all things considered, because let's be honest, I have to have these kind of things as a content creator. Today, the AMBT is going under the hammer, and I believe this will be the first American auto-reloading tank. All of the free experience auctions are over now because there was only going to be one of them, so from here on in it's only going to be gold. There's 30,000 available on the European server, and it's starting at 9,900, but it's going to go for significantly more than that. I'm not sure if there's even going to be a competitive bid option for this kind of tank, and for me that's kind of sickening to have an idea of what it's roughly going to go for as a brand new tier 8 premium medium tank. So the AMBT is a vehicle which I've featured a little bit of on the channel with regards to primary statistics, but today I'm going to get to play it for literally the very first time on YouTube because I'm getting this vehicle on my press account. But just before I do, let's take a look at this thing's statistics so you can see whether it's going to be worth the very hefty gold tag. So as the first American auto-reloading tank, it's quite hard to try and figure out what exactly to compare this thing to. But it's going to have to be the Italian vehicles, the Progetto 46 and also the Passante C45. Immediately, we notice the damage per minute of this vehicle's 105mm. Main armament is 1,800 when it's fully loaded, which is exactly the same as the Passante. And its 360 alpha damage is also very comparable to that tank. The vehicle's penetration at 215 is right in the middle of the two Italian auto-reloaders, and it carries 3 rounds, which allows it to deal 1,080 damage over 6 seconds of the first shot, identical to the Passante. One of the nice things about this tank is that it gets APCR rounds as standard with 1,278 meters a second shell velocity, and premium APCR rounds as well that have 1,492 meters a second shell velocity. This will allow this thing to be very good at clutch shotting things that are moving very quickly, although it's not going to have wonderful high explosive rounds for butchering some thick armored plate even at decent distances. So to all intents and purposes, this thing is practically a Passante with regards to the gun, with some differences in the ammunition. However, it's very important to realize that that is if you're fully loaded in this tank. And when we take a look at how long the second and third shell reload is for the AMBT, it is actually significantly longer on the third shell than the Passante, with your reload going from 12 to 15 to 19. That means that this tank's DPM will be quite good when you're not actually using the auto-reloading functionalities of the vehicle, but as soon as you go to the second round, you're going to be firing 4 rounds a minute, which will give you 1,440 DPM. And if you dip into the third round of this vehicle, then you are going to have 1,136 DPM, which is abysmal and is significantly worse than the Passante's DPM when it's dry and only has 1 shell at 1,270. And of course, with the Progetto being significantly buffed, the fact that that vehicle still reloads its albeit smaller rounds in 10.8 seconds when it's dry means that this thing's DPM is going to be massively worse than the Italian auto-reloading medium. So now let's move on to the gun handling. Aim time 2.7 seconds, the same as the Passante. Accuracy 0.38, not great, not terrible. Much worse than the Progetto, but better than the Passante, which is nice. The gun handling on this tank, however, is fairly shocking for a medium tank. 0.16 when turning the turret, the same as the Passante, and 0.2 when moving means that you'll undoubtedly have to use vertical stabilizers on this tank. One thing that's insane about the AMBT, unless this is a mistake with the statistics, is that it actually has a 7 dispersion after firing value, double that of the Progetto, which means that, well, I'm going to find out in the gameplay in just a second, in theory its reticle is going to bloom out, kind of like a Caliban. So it'll be very interesting to see if it's able to use that fairly nice 3-second intra-clip reload without becoming insanely inaccurate. The gun depression on this tank is 9, the same as the Progetto, not quite as nice as the Passante. And one thing you'll have to watch out for is the elevation is only 10 degrees. That's horrible. That's half of the Italian medium tanks and the Italian heavy tanks. And so that's going to make this thing fairly awkward for working on a ridgeline, kind of how it feels on a Manticore. So now onto the mobility, and this is where it's kind of good news but also kind of bad news for this vehicle. Its top speed limit is 40, and its reverse speed is 14, which makes it slower than the Passante, even without boosting up the engine power. But its engine power is actually pretty good. It's got a power to weight ratio of over 18, massively better than the Passante. And also its ground resistances look like they're pretty good. Not nearly as good as the Progetto, which are half of the AMBT, but they're still decent enough. It's not going to be the fastest medium tank, but also not the slowest medium tank. And this means that I would thoroughly recommend using a turbo on the AMBT to be able to pump up that top speed limit to 45 instead of 40, because it has the power to weight ratio to be able to use it. The turret traverse on this tank is a disappointing 28, kind of making it feel more like a heavy, and the tank traverse is 32, which is definitely not good for a medium. This is going to feel like a heavier medium tank, and wow, you're going to start to see why with regards to the armor. 250 millimeters of turret armor, that looks really awesome. Let's take a look at its 3D model so we can have an idea of how it all works out. So its upper plate is 70 millimeters thick and incredibly well angled. It has nice angled side armor as well, which means that you don't actually have to angle your tank when you're facing your opponents, and if you do, that's going to become a little bit of a weak point. Its lower plate looks huge and horrific though. 100 millimeters is not bad though. That will be able to brush aside some tier 6 rounds and some tier 7 rounds, especially if it's angling and they're trying to aim down at it. They're going to struggle, but all tier 8s, 9s, and 10s that this vehicle's going to meet is going to butcher it. The turret looks absolutely amazing. 250, 300 millimeters of protection, and it's well angled as well, which means that only heat is going to be able to challenge a lot of this tank's surfaces. Keep in mind, however, that the roof of this tank is 40 millimeters thick all across the top of the forehead, which means that 122 millimeter guns will be able to overmatch this whole triangle on top of the vehicle. So this thing will be good against mediums, and good against all guns that are against 120 caliber, but anything larger is going to obliterate it. It also has a weak point on the top, 75 millimeters. That's not great. Going to have to watch out for that. All in all, this thing looks like if it gets into a hold down position, it's going to be very good. But there's something really obvious, and that is the kind of neck of the tank is 110 millimeters thick, and it looks like it's going to catch a lot of shells. So if you're fighting these things, you want to really wait until it exposes its neck or its lower plate to be able to punish it. And if you're playing the AMBT, what you want to do is kind of only expose just your gun to your opponent's gun, try and bait them into shooting you, and then progress over the ridgeline to be able to get the shots in. Looks like a real different kind of auto-reloading medium tank, maybe setting the standard for future American auto-reloading medium tanks. So, oh gosh, disappointing stats here, really. The camo rating on the move doesn't look too bad, but I'm looking at that view range. 380 means that you're probably going to have to take coated optics, or you're just gonna not have enough to be able to be the medium tank spotter. But let's be honest, you kind of have to be. Annoyingly, on this tank, the commander is actually the radio operator, which is not the case on the M48. And so if you want to take your top tier American medium crew and you want to put it in this vehicle, you're not going to have situational awareness on the correct crew member. Meaning that the only high-tier American medium commander that's actually going to work well with the AMBT is actually on the T69. Oh dear, have any of you kept your T69 crew members? Well, you're going to need them if you want to have that situational awareness on your commander and not on your loader. Alright, so without further ado, let's jump straight in for my first ever game in the AMBT. Oh my word, I've been saying that a lot the last few days. It's a little bit too much, you know. Wargaming releasing all of these new tanks and new content day after day after day. I mean, it just seems greedy, right? But luckily, I'm in that fortunate position to be one of the players who can benefit from the greed, as somebody who's kind of got all of the tanks and has all of that and has the currency to be able to spend even on my main account. But I do also feel sorry for all of the players who have to instead put up with watching all of these collector's items just go and go and go. It's completely understandable. Alright, so what am I going to select on this tank? What am I going to select on this vehicle? Am I going to go for Commander's Vision System and Coated Optics, or am I going to go for a damage setup? I think I'm going to go for a damage setup on this map. Alright, so immediately, wow. The first American auto-reloading tank. I love my American mediums. As you all know, the M48 is my most played vehicle. And so, to have an auto-reloader possibility in the future for American mediums could be fairly funky. This thing's power-to-weight ratio is not bad, and I'm using a Bond turbo on this tank, as you saw, so its top speed is not too shabby, but I can imagine it would be incredibly frustrating on this vehicle if you don't use a turbo to be limited to 40 kilometers an hour and feel like you're just like a heavy, medium tank. So it does take about 40 seconds to be able to get the full magazine in, but you know what, now I got 1,000 damage, so it's not too shabby. 1,080 damage is not bad for a medium tank, right? I think I take a bit of a risk to be able to advance across here. Remember, I've got a terrible lower plate on this vehicle. My camo rating is not bad. I've kind of boosted the camo rating up to a point with the field mods. Oh my god, I got spotted. I gotta watch out. There'll be a crossover there. Alright, so it's quite hard to decide exactly what to do here right now. Should I be kind of a support vehicle? There's one. Oh, look at that bloom. Do you see the bloom when I fire? I think Tank's GG is correct. I think it does bloom out really far when you fire. And wow, that's damage, right? That's damage. Wow, it's like playing a Passante but having the mobility to be able to use it. Pretty funky tank. Obviously, I'm maxing out the DPM here with all of the bells and whistles. I'm on my press account, so why wouldn't I want to use all the bells and whistles? Oh, I'm so close. I need just a pixel more to be able to get this player. It's an E25 on the other flank. I'm hoping I can get this bat chat. He's probably trying to spot me as well. Gotta be careful. You know, in these bushes, you're never safe. I want to try and get some damage in, though. Do you think the Super Pershing will spot me? I want to go after this bat chat. I've got a pixel. That's all I need. And shall I go for the third? Ah, it's going to ruin my DPM, but if I can get a light tank out of the game on Fisherman's Bay, which is a very important class, it's not bad. Dang, this DPM, though, when I've unloaded. Pretty good start for this tank, all in all. I have to admit, its bloom, it doesn't feel that bad. But remember, I am using vertical stabilizers. So this is the real awkward thing. So I think I've got to correct myself here. This isn't an auto-reloader. It's just an auto-loader. Or at least, maybe it is an auto... No, it is an auto-reloader. What are you talking about? It just doesn't have the heavy tank compensation of the Italian heavies, right? I've been playing so many Italian heavy tanks. I absolutely love that class. That it did look a bit weird that I wasn't getting the beep, beep, beep to come up on the screen. But no, this is just a regular auto-reloader, not an Italian auto-reloading heavy tank. So it's not going to get the compensation that the Passante has. And that's kind of painful when you think about it. Because at least with the Passante, if you fire early, you're going to get some of that DPM back. Oh my lord, talk about getting that DPM back. Let's get backwards. Let's get backwards. Oh, I need to get into position as quickly as possible. Where's my shot going to be? There it is. If I fire now, I'm going to lower all of my DPM. But if I don't fire, then I might not get kills. So it's tough, right? Oh, do I really want to fire this third shot and just have horrendous DPM right now? I think I want to reload one. Wow, that's an ammo rack. I reckon this guy's going to push forwards in just a sec. Oh, yes. Wow, 2,700 damage. I'm printing it right now, boys and girls. This game looks like it's ending fairly quickly. I'm going to go down and try and help the Caliban. I realize I might get spotted in the side, so I'm going to turn my turret towards the CS-44. I'm going to go straight for these two medium tanks down here. This is an aggressive play, for sure. It's an aggressive play, but I feel like it's a play that I want to make. I am not spotted, so I'm going to stay 50 meters away from the KV-3 and his friend. And then I'm going to turn my turret towards the side now. I'm not spotted, I'm not spotted, I'm not spotted, I'm not spotted, I'm not spotted. And I would have got a double kill. Well, I have to put up with just getting a single one. Alright, I've got hit points right now, so I'm going to make a bit of a cheeky play. I lost a lot of HP there. I don't really want to fire until about now. Unfortunately, the shell misses, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. I've got enough magazine damage here to be able to brush aside this VZ-44-1. He's going to know where I'm coming from. He's getting shot by my friends, though. He's actually fired, which means that now I'm going to just go 1, and I'm going to go 2, and I'm going to move on. Wow, this tank feels really cool right now. Of course, it does have its disadvantages. Its lower plate isn't great, so on and so forth. But right now, for me, This tank feels really funky. Really funky. It's like a Progetto with higher alpha damage, but of course it doesn't have the DPM that the Progetto has. And you've got to worry about firing early, right? 1, 2, 3. The accuracy just feels so much better than the Basante right now. He's easy as 1, 2, 3 playing this. I'm going to change to my gold rounds now because I don't actually have enough regular rounds to be able to fire in. This is where this tank sucks though. You do need to have some downtime between the battle, otherwise your DPM just gets to a point where it doesn't feel like you can recover it. Maybe I shouldn't have fired all 3 shells there. Maybe I should have just fired 2. And then maybe I would have had some DPM to be able to recover. Alright, now I'm worried about this SU, but I also want to get some damage in. Do I wait? 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 Of course I wait. Of course I wait. I can't kill him otherwise. There's 1. Alright, it's fine because I waited, so now I've got an extra shell. Alright, that Caliban's going to rush across and he's going to die. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to try and make use of the vision that these medium tanks are going to get towards the west. I'm going to try and get into a position where I can maybe try and finish tanks off. Nice. The downtime in this combat has now enabled me to get a reload going. Now remember, this thing's hull armor is not particularly wonderful, so I've got to be careful here. But I also want to get stuck in. I want to get a Top Gun in my first game in this vehicle, so I'm not going to stop. Let's go. Let's go plow in. Maybe we get lucky. Maybe we don't get lucky. We're about to find out. Maybe we get some spotting. There's an E25 nailing us. Oh, come on, baby. I want a Top Gun. Oh, it's not even my main account, though. Oi, oi, oi. Okay, I'm going to stop for that E25. He's reversing away. Look at that bloom, but it's still okay with the vertical stabilizers. Would 10 out of 10 out of 10 recommend vertical stabilizers on this tank? And there we go. 5 kills and 5,500 damage in my first ever game playing the AMBT. Now, obviously, it was a tier 7 matchup, and we weren't playing against, should we say, the best of players. But it shows you what the tank is capable of. Oh, why couldn't that have been on my main account? QQQQQ. I'll take it though. I'll take it though. Ace Tanker. After playing the Object 268 version 5 so well yesterday and got 5,000 damage in 3 games. I mean, I pretty much know most of what there is to know about the AMBT just after looking at the statistics and getting a feel for it there. The only concerns that I had were about the bloom after firing. It does feel significant. The bloom is very significant. I honestly think this is the kind of tank where if you're able to improve the gun handling with vertical stabilizers, it kind of mitigates one of the big weaknesses that Wargaming were going to give it. I think that this will be a tank that scales very well with equipment. There are some premium tanks that are good with regular equipment, but become great with excellent equipment. And I think this is going to be one of them. I think when you get all of the field mods and you get the scouting slot to perhaps be able to put your coated optics in, or you put your vents in addition to putting the turbocharger inside the mobility slot, this thing could be rather nice. One thing I'd like to highlight is that I undoubtedly have a lot of advantages with what I'm playing the tank with now. I've got premium consumable, I've got bond vents, and I've got situation awareness and recon, which, remember, pumps up the view range of the vehicle. And so if I wasn't using all of those, I would have to use coated optics. So what module would I give up to be able to use coated optics on this tank? Well, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably have 2 builds. I'd have one build like this. Let's see if I can change. I'd have one build like this, and I'd have one build like that to be able to have the best of both worlds for when you get onto your Prokhorovkas, but you still want to be competitive when you're playing on your Himmelsdorfs. So I'm going to actually go with my combat build once again. I'm going to try and push across over towards the northeast, and I'm going to try and protect the cap circle. Oh man, still feeling awesome after smashing my first game in the AMBT and absolutely crushing it. I probably could have been a little bit more aggressive with my hit points at the end, but look, that lower plate, it's huge and it's easy to hit. This tank is really so meta. It is. It's got turret armor. It's got an autoloader. An auto reloader, to be exact. It can dump out 1,000 damage in 6 seconds, which is incredibly punishing. And it has enough mobility to be able to still keep out of harm's way. The only things that this tank won't do very well on is when its lower plate is exposed, when it's getting shot by 122mm, and when it is probably getting shot by high explosive anti-tank rounds, which, remember, the thin but well-angled armor won't protect you against high explosive anti-tank rounds. Nevertheless, this thing is looking like a beast. I'm almost certain that the best way to set this thing up is vents, coated up, vents, vertical stabilizers, and a turbo for the majority of situations. But then I'd probably have a second build where I drop out vertical stabilizers to be able to get a hold of coated optics, or maybe even a commander's vision system, or maybe even both. Alright, so we've got an M4Y against us. This could be fairly tricky to deal with my 200mm of pen against his upper hull. I don't want to get caught right now, but I also want to play, you know? Nobody wants to see me hang back with a new toy, right? We played quite defensively in that last game. Okay, there's a G-saw. That's really not good. He's fired 2 rounds. God, yeah, my hit points just evaporated there. Is that what it's like for the previous game for all of those tier 7s when they were playing against the AMBT? Yeah. Autoloaders, man. Autoloaders, man. Okay, so we've lost a lot of our hit points. Whoa, can I just take a minute to say how far back the turret is on this tank? That could actually make it very awkward to play around with on a ridgeline to try and hide the hull armor. Like, is my hull going to go up before my turret? First bit of bad RNG on my gun. Second bit of bad RNG on my gun. Probably I've relaxed, and I'm not focused like I was in that previous game. Oh dear, AMBT, what are you doing to me? Don't do it like this. But it is fair. It's fair when things like that happen, right? Oh my god, they got a TS5 and a G-saw at the back. That's really quite gnarly. I have to look after my DPM here. The enemies are going to have to put some pressure up on the cap circle, though. I don't have the correct ammunition loaded for the TS5. I don't think I can go through his lower plate, and I don't think anyone else can go through his lower plate as well. Okay, it's okay. I'll get 3 rounds back, and then I'll try and engage this Super Pershing. Let's try and use some of the turret armor that this tank has. You haven't really got it. Ooh, hello, hello, hello. Hello, son. Where are you coming from? Dude, gun elevation problems. Did you see that? I talked about them in the tank statistics. Those gun elevation problems. I was on a tiny little slope there, and it really screwed me over. That's a G-saw. Or maybe even a TS5. I just don't have the correct rounds loaded for the job here. I'm going to just fire my full mag and then reload gold for the TS5's lower plate. Yeah. In that kind of a situation, I could use intuition. Of course, it wouldn't be a QB YouTube video unless I talked about intuition. To be able to switch out to a full gold mag, which will actually have significantly helped my ability to get my DPM in there. Nevertheless, is this T-34-2 going to have to make a hero play? I think he is. I don't want to leave the cap circle until he does, though, because I'm currently putting pressure on him, and there's the hero. I'm going to fire 1, but I'm not going to fire the second until I know that I can get him. Nice! I mean, what is there to say? It's just a very flexible tank. It's a lot like a Basante, and I love my Basante. This might become one of my favorite tanks. This might become one of my favorite tanks. You all know how much I love my Basante. Hopefully you all checked out my masterclass video on the tank. Oh god, oh god, oh god. I'm trying not to block you, son. Oh, we're in trouble, we're in trouble. Pop the G-saw. I just don't have the DPM in this game, do I? It's a renegade, it's a renegade. Shall I just fire my rounds out? Try and round me. 1. 2. He gets that kill. Nice. God, I'm the last man standing. Gotta watch out for that. Oh, can you believe I'm still alive? Well, they took the cap circle back. And this is where auto-reloaders are just so good. This is where auto-reloaders are just so damn good. The fact that I could save those rounds to be able to get my DPM back, to be able to then go after the player again. Just so good. So unbelievably good. Nothing else is like an auto-reloader in World of Tanks from that regards. And that is what the AMBT is going to be. Oi, oi, oi. Let's see if I can get him. Hey, I actually bounced his turret. 850, this thing's turret armor. I bounced a gold round there from the Scorpion. Alright, so look, it wasn't the best of games. I would argue I got a little unlucky with where my shells went. But did you see how good this thing was for that kind of close quarters combat fight? It had the mobility, the grunt in the engine to be able to evade the heavy tanks. It had big damage that I get to save up. Is that another ace? That must be because nobody's playing it. Well, to be fair, I did get 1,358. I think this is my tank, boys and girls. I think this is my tank. I think this might be my tank. I haven't said that in a long time, where I really feel like a vehicle went into the game where I thought it would be mine. All right, I know I'm meant to be trying to get this video out as quickly as possible, so that all of you can find out about the AMBT, but I just can't resist it. I can't resist it. Okay, 2 ace tankers in a row, and decent ones at that. 1,450 and 1,350 base experience games. Let's see if we can turn it up a notch. All right, do I want to use my coated optics build with a commander's vision system on this map? Shall I go for the kind of the combat build? I could go play against the heavies. Okay, so here's the thing. If I think that this vehicle would do real well against the mediums and the light tanks, but I'm not going to go there. And the reason why I'm not going to go there is because I should probably fight against the heavies to show you all what this thing's kind of combat capacity is there. No, you know what? Actually, sod it. I'm going to go against the mediums. So we're going to go and plow the medium tank flank. We're going to go and try and use our turret. We're going to try and I'm going to try and show you all, hopefully, how the turret armor works. It's what I would do if I was playing normally. But then again, you see, when I'm looking at this tank, I'm immediately getting into my like Basante mindset. And with the Basante, I would go and plow into the town. I have to admit, I'm really liking this tank so far. It'll be really interesting to see what the community thinks about it statistically. I think its DPM is just okay. It does get really bad as you go deeper into the magazine. But you know what? I'm the kind of player who just fires one, reloads, and only use that second and third shell for getting your way out of a situation. That's just what we did on the Steps map. We saved those shells, we held them, and then we unloaded them on the Renegade, and then we reloaded and be able to go all again. And that's what sometimes you've got to do in your vehicles, your auto-reloaders, is not get baited into getting caught, wasting your DPM, but save it for the actual real fights. Yeah, this thing's gun handling is horrendous. It's going to scale really well with crew skill. It's a bit like a Basante with that regards. Nice shell velocity on my standard rounds there. Standard APCR rounds. Stopping that Lynx's shenanigans. Alright, I'm getting too excited, man. I'm getting too excited here. Oh, my lord. Oh, no. I told you I'm getting too excited. They've got my lower plate, and I'm going to probably die. I'm probably going to die. I'm getting too excited. There's a Pantera there. You know what? Take this, Pantera. And this one as well. There you go. There's a freebie for you. Okay, misplay by me. Look, oh, look at those shots, though. So little. If they'd been a few pixels higher, I would have definitely been able to bounce those off my upper hull. What a shame. I wonder how many times the shells are going to ricochet off the upper hull and go into that weak turret ring, though. That could be interesting. Alright, so I lost a lot of health on that flank. Not good play by me. I'm kind of trying to show you things now, rather than just try and play like rock solid tight like I was in the first couple of games. I almost feel like I've got a rush right now. Let's see if we can get up into this position and go after this a mill. This Borask is trying to spot, I guess. Or maybe he's not trying to spot. I got spotted. Oh, gosh. Yeah, there's clearly something in one of these bushes. Maybe the T-44-100 is using that bush. Or maybe they're using those bushes there. Alright, let's try and come around this corner and see if I can find... There could be ELCs. There could be anything anywhere. There's a Progetto over there. I'll never hit this shot. Oh, what? I'm not spotted. It must have been the Batchat who was spotted there. There's the LT-432 who's been finding us the entire game, and the STRV-81 as well. There's the ELC right in front of us. Shall I go make a pressure play on the ELC, or shall I go over there and try and fight against the mediums? It's a tough one. It's a tough one. You know what I think I need to do is probably go up towards the northwest and then try and use those bushes over there. I really wish I was fighting against that Progetto now. I'll do really well against that Progetto. This thing will mince a Progetto. I've got turret armor, he doesn't. I've got alpha damage, he doesn't. But of course he has DPM, so if he can get me to miss his shells, then he'll be in a good position. Oh, wow. That bloom at long range feels really crappy. And that's with all of the advantages that I have. So be careful with this tank. It definitely does have a 7 bloom after firing, which means that you cannot accurately get your shots in, even with the tank's fairly horrific 3 seconds intra-clip reload. Yeah, look, I can't be fully aimed in between my shots. Wow. Not good. Not good at long range, but I'm hitting for 360. How many times do you need a medium tank for hit for 360? When I think about it, this vehicle is baffling with that regards. It was only about 2 years ago that the standard damage for a tier 8 medium was 240. I'm looking at you, Progetto. And then now it feels as if the standard damage for a tier 8 medium is now more like 360, like this tank. Oof. Imagine driving out in front of an AMBT and a Borask at the same time. That's not good. That's never going to go well for you. I think that this tank is going to be incredibly annoying to try and dig out as well. I don't know how you're meant to try and push this thing out of a position, in all honesty. Alright, you know what? This video is going to go on far too long if I don't try and make some plays. It's already a long video, so I'm going to risk it. Look, if I was playing rock solid tight, I would probably just sit at the back there. I'm going to go and try and take some chances, see if we can maybe get something out of this game. Okay, with that caveat in mind, let's try and make some active, aggressive plays in the latter part of this battle. Basante shuts down a tank. Pantera is still probably going to be skulking around at the back of the map. I'm going to get forwards. I'm going to try and use this bush location here to see if I can maybe get some spots out against anything. And I just found the guy who spotted me earlier. I don't think he's got TDs helping him anymore. Unfortunately for me... Oh, he definitely did have TDs that were helping him. But that guy's been spotted out as well, so maybe my team will be able to bag him. That's a really interesting position for the T-44-100. Okay, that Pantera could get me, SU could get me, but I'm going to take a chance here. One. LT actually penned me. That's not good. Ah, yeah, he got the shot catch in the turret ring. I'm not sure if he did that on purpose or if it's just a random shell that went into that position. But that's how it's going to be for the AMBT. That's how it's going to be for the AMBT. What's up, dude? How you doing? You doing good? I'm going to fire there. Now, here's the thing that sucks. If I was in the Basante, I would get a quick reload on the second shell. Because I'm not in the Basante, I do not get a quick reload on the second shell. Alright, do you know where I think this thing's going to be absolutely savage? Is like finishing off like a Borask does, right? The Borask is going to go in. The Borask is going to get 2 shots. The Borask is going to die to a Pantera. But then I'm going to hopefully go in and finish this guy off. And if I missed, I had another shell. The Pantera's probably over there. Is he going to shoot me? Yes, he is. Doesn't look like I hit him earlier either. I'm running out of rounds. Oh, am I going to have to switch to gold? Not that it really matters. It's my press account. 4 kills, though. This thing is really good at kill securing. Just like my Basante. This thing feels as if it's kind of like a Basante. Am I going to say it's better than a Basante? It could be. And I tell you what, I do very well in my Basante. So if this thing is as competitive as a Basante, then this thing is going to be competitive, to say the least. Alright. Nice, there's one. Good stuff. Alright, look, it wasn't the best game of World of Tanks I've ever had. 2,600 damage and 600 spotting. I think those were 3 cracking games for the AMBT. We got 2 ace tankers. This one's probably only going to be a second class or a first class medal. Man, this is honestly the first vehicle of the new released vehicles that I have been really enjoying. I cannot imagine not enjoying playing this tank. This thing has all of the boxes that I want to tick to be a dominant player. It has gun depression, it has upper hull armor, it has enough mobility, and it has an auto reloader, which allows you to have unparalleled flexibility. It's kind of a bit like the American medium, the Astron Rex. It's just while the Astron Rex has to go and reload an entire magazine, this thing can reload its shells one by one. Really like the AMBT. I can't wait to have this one on my main account. The problem is how much do I think that it's worth. On the European server, there are 30,000 up for grabs, and I don't believe there's going to be a way that you see a competitive bid. I expect that people will end up spending tens of thousands of gold on this vehicle. Now, I don't want to put an arbitrary number out there because I believe that will influence the bidding, and I don't want to try and inflate the price of this tank. And honestly, I'm really disappointed that Wargaming would release such a fun and novel tank in an Under the Hammer auction and not just allow people to maybe have a few days to be able to watch a review and then be able to figure out whether they want to get it and kind of promote this reckless spending with bidding system. The other thing that I hate about this is that if you're a tank collector, or maybe you just really like the look of the vehicle, you're going to end up having to spend at least 50% or 100% more on a vehicle than you otherwise would have if it had had a competitive bid, just because you want to be sure that you're going to be able to get it. Now, 30,000 is a lot. The kind of unique players that World of Tanks will have over the next 24 hours is probably about maybe 200 or 300,000 tops, I'd say, who are actually going to play World of Tanks in the next 24 hours. So that means that 1 in 8 of them, and that's including all of the incredibly casual players who probably don't even know that this is going on, are going to be able to purchase this tank. And so I don't think it's going to go outrageously high because there are 30,000 available. If there had only been 5 or 10,000 available, it would have gone outrageously high. So I think there's kind of a bit of a safety in those numbers. Final mention, I want to talk about the strength of the tank. I personally think this is a really powerful vehicle, at least for me, but remember, I love vehicles like the Basante and the Italian auto-reloaders, and I love my Italian auto-reloading tanks just in general. So maybe I'm not taking into account that some people won't know how to set the vehicle up correctly, some people won't know how to hide the lower plate, and some people won't know how to set it up with field mods to be able to increase the vehicle's camo rating. So maybe those players will drag it down, but I'm just going to go out here with a guess, and I think this is going to have one of the best win ratios of any tier 8 medium tank, because it's just got all of the statistics that are fabulous for the current meta. I feel like Wargaming have done everything that they can to try and balance it out without making it feel awful, you know, to the point where they've given it horrendous hidden statistics that we never usually look at, like the gun bloom, the view range, and also limiting the top speed limit to make it slower. Clearly, they've tried to file off as many of the statistics to still make this as balanced as it can be, but I don't think they've done quite enough, possibly, at least for the higher end players, and I think that these will be the experienced World of Tanks player universal tool of the battlefield. I genuinely think that the more casual players are probably going to become more confused with the vehicle, and they'll probably do better in something like an Astron Rex. For somebody who has extensive experience in auto-reloading tanks, this thing is going to be an absolute beast. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you appreciate me going that extra mile as quickly as possible to be able to get you informed about Under the Hammer, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. But if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments what you think about the AMBT and how much you think that the vehicle is going to go for. And feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want to be informed about tomorrow and the days after videos. And also just to mention that obviously I usually release my videos later on Sunday, but there is still going to be a tech tree showcase today for any of you who want some evening stream content. I just don't quite know what it's going to be yet. So tune in for a mystery tech tree showcase at about 8 o'clock server time, European time. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.